Welcome back to the Low Power Mode podcast. I am your host, Breezy, and it's pretty crazy. It's the 8th of November. It's the beaver blood full moon, meaning the beaver full moon and a blood moon. And there was an eclipse last night that only happens once every 5 years, and it's election night in the States. So if that isn't enough frenetic energy to slip into a nice low power mode rhythm, then I don't know what is. Let's get it kicked off.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected, deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode, in low power mode, been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low, I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
All right, so the person who I want to focus on, the artist, the musical artist I want to focus on today is none other than Latto, formerly known as Mulatto. And, that's one of my things. So it was so cool to have her come up and represent some of the similar things that I try to represent with my music. Let's do it. Music. Okay, so focusing on Latto today. Spotlighting is more glamorous than focusing. All right, so Latto is this artist who, similar to me, has a mother who's white and a father who's black. And I think she grew up I think maybe she was born in Ohio and then was raised in Atlanta in Clayton County, Georgia. So not Atlanta, sorry. Yeah, I think she started writing songs when she was like 10 years old, and just wanted to do it. Has been wanting to do it for a really long time, and her come up has happened over the past few years. So it's been really cool to see. And I gotta admit, like, even with the Latto thing, I was excited about the Latto thing, but it took me a little while to enjoy Latto as much as I do now. And I think some of that had to do with the like hyper femininity that we get with, like a Megan Thee Stallion or City Girls, or like, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just, it's kind of trendy. It's kind of trendy at this point. And so I couldn't really see beyond the raps and the look of the videos and things. Like, I couldn't really see her, but I think over the past like year or so, maybe even like 6 months or so, she's really emerged, and she's done some things that I've been like, damn, I love to see this. This is amazing. I think that's such the cool thing about like the next generation, or like the younger generation of rappers, is, they can be more open-minded in ways that are like a teensy bit more accepted these days. So, all right. So I want to talk about two videos. The first one I want to talk about is Latto's It's Givin. This is the one where I was like, oh, I really like this. And I didn't even know, but afterwards I saw that there were all these cameos of so many famous young black, not all young, but like many different types of black femme folks, and it was really cool to see. And I love like a little humor in the video, and so she starts out, the music starts out like you're watching Snow White or like Cinderella or something, and birds chirping in the background maybe, and then it's the vision is like a dollhouse that they're kind of zooming out on, and then it's like and then like drops the beat, and it's great because her stiletto like crushes the roof of the dollhouse and just like lands in the living room, and it's like a close-up shot. So like there's so much in that just right there, like having a dollhouse and then having this black stiletto heel just as the beat starts. So cool. Then it goes on to feature Latto in these kind of like cold office environments, but she's wearing like there's a lot of like black bodysuit and blazer type of looks, and yeah, and it's classic like club music, where like it's more about the vibe than it is about the lyrics, you know. But it's just simple and fun, and I like the way this song's produced, and and there's a shout out to Crime Mob, an epic hip hop group out of Atlanta, who they had this song Stiletto Pumps, where they're like stiletto pumps in the club, and so she does Bottega heels in the club, interpolating or sampling Crime Mob, which is a nice shout. But yeah, it's great. She has like all different types of like black femmes in this, or like brown, or like also like a little bit subversive kind of vibe. And yeah, like you also see like a mother and child, and like a lesbian couple, and like all these femmes with blazers at the board meeting, and it's so cool. And so upon looking at the credits, Chloe and Halle, singers and actresses, are in there. LMI is in there, or LMA. Flo Milli, a fellow badass rapper. Sky Jackson, an actress. Slick Woods, like a model who's kind of famous for like bald modeling photographs. Tabitha Brown is in there. Tabitha Brown, the vegan chef, comedian, like Instagram person who just, I think Tabitha Brown just won a children's show Emmy for her show. Tiffany New York Pollard, a reality TV star. Tokyo Styles, who does, it's like a star hairdresser, I guess. She's worked with like the Kardashians and Cardi B and you know, all the hot stars, Rihanna, Gabrielle Union. Angie Martinez is in this video. Angie Martinez, she's like part of hip hop history. She is an artist herself, and was also a radio host, or is a radio host. And she was on, like, growing up in Rhode Island, there were 4 solid stations that I could get the music that I wanted to listen to from, and it was 92.3, 94.5, Hot 977, and 106.3. And Angie Martinez, she was the host for Hot 977, Hot 97.7. And yeah, it was like where I was getting all of my classic, you know, like Tupac and Biggie and Lauryn Hill, and like she was the radio DJ at that time. And so she's just epic and a boss bitch. And so it's great. Latto had all these boss bitches up in here, and I think something that is so tired among feminism or women is this like competition, women being pitted against each other, or femmes being pitted against each other, not just in hip hop, just in general. If there's like, I've heard this person who I work with, she mentioned that being a female sound engineer is super rare. When you get like up there in levels, like it's rare. And she said the first like woman who she worked with, who like came up to her level, was so competitive and just so not like, she didn't even want to speak to this woman. And that's for me, like, that is the perpetuation of the patriarchy. And what I love about what Latto's doing is she's throwing that whole narrative of like, oh, the R&B bitches like never feature each other on each other's songs. Kendrick said that. And the the rap bitches like are always feuding, whatever. It's like, that is so, we just like, we simply cannot have it. And there is like the Nicki Minaj Cardi B kind of beef, but I feel this turn in the tide with this next gen of femme rappers who are like, and not next generation meaning like true generation, because like I feel like actually maybe they are. No, I don't know how old everybody is. I don't know what age Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, like how old they are compared to like Latto and Flo Milli. I know the newer female rappers, let's say, there's more space for camaraderie, I think, than there has been, and it's so nice to see. And so Latto, like, including all these women in the video, not on so the song is just her vocal, but all of these other black women, black femmes in the industry, is so strong and makes such a badass statement and goes so against what we're normally fed, this Nicki versus Cardi bullshit. And so it's really like, thank you, Latto, like, thank you for doing this. Love it so much. And then the other song that I want to talk about, is called Pxssy. It's spelled with an X in the name, but on this show I'm just gonna say Pxssy. And it's really funny because pussy is just such an interesting word, like how people feel about it, whether they can handle it. If it's hard for you, just think about like pussycat. It's just, it's not, I don't know, it's like, you don't have to be scared of it. But I feel like this song Pxssy, it wins the song for like most times the word pussy is used in a rap song. And at the same time, like, I could see that kind of going left, but for me, like, this was amazing. Latto went there when it came to feminism in Roe v. Wade, and like more than I see anyone else in the industry doing right now. Like, you have people who are like, embody, the strength of women and feminism and like even like power through sexuality and stuff like this. But Latto just throws it down in this song. And she said the song samples Betty Wright's Girls Can't Do What the Guys Do. Oh, it's so like it's just like classic soul blues. If you don't know who Betty Wright is, she was in a relationship with Miles Davis. She was like a big kind of black female singer. I think she started in punk music or rock music and then went more to blues, or in soul or like popular music. But she's incredible. I want to do a deep dive into her music, but it was amazing having this song that really like sticks up for women and femmes and stuff, and the sample being just so right. Latto has another song called Big Energy that samples Fantasy by Mariah Carey, and I appreciate that. Like I appreciate, 25 years later or whatever, like bringing the song back into consciousness, but it just, the use of it, like they didn't do anything with the sample. That kind of bothers me, like Rihanna Wild Thoughts over Santana Maria. And so I feel like this was such a great use of the sample, and it all stuck to the theme, and I love that. Also, Latto co-directed this video. It looks like it could have been like in her home. And there's so many cats. It's just like a bunch of cats just tearing shit up. So it was just fantastic. She, like, right from the beginning, she's like sitting at home watching a TV, and on the TV there's all these like protest signs that have that are fighting for abortion and Roe v. Wade, and some of her lyrics are just so good, like y'all sexualize lesbians for y'all entertainment, like just calling people out, like calling out cisgender men in such a, I don't know, in such a beautiful way. She goes, y'all misogynistic ways show the size of your dick. It doesn't take much, what does she say? Let me look this up. About the gender roles, y'all protecting the hypocrisy. Half of y'all pussy N-words owe your mama an apology. I was like, yes. That is some badass shit. You owe your mama an apology. Preach. I also liked she goes, how you ain't got a pussy but opinions on pussy, that's pussy. My ovaries ain't for you to bully. Y'all the reason we make music, teaching bitches how to use it. Speak up and they gonna defend or abuse it. These N-words losers. So I just, after this 1-2 punch of it's Givin having like all these badass bitches, boss bitches in the music video, and then this song Pussy, which came out a few months ago, but so just so timely and standing up for women and femmes in the fight, and like for Roe v. Wade and abortion in this country. And it's so good to see this happening on mainstream, in the mainstream. So that's all I got for Latto. And I read in Latto's bio that she was bullied, and called light skinned and all that stuff, like growing up, for being light skinned. And it like my experience wasn't so much like active bullying, but it's just nice to have your identity or your kind of story affirmed by another artist. So it'll be so dope to collab one day. We'll see. But I'm a fan of Latto, and I'm so happy she's here. And thank you, Trina, for supporting Latto early on and like helping boost her into the mainstream. And Mariah Carey, who's on their official remix with Latto and performed at I think it was the BET Awards. It's just so, we need this so bad in R&B and hip hop. So thank you, goddesses. And let's move on to TV. Television. All right, so this is the TV section. I'm not going to spend too long here today because this show is like, generally my features are not as white leaning as this show is, but it was too funny not to talk about. So I was watching Netflix, and then this movie Blockbuster popped up on my Netflix, and so it stars Randall Park, and my mom and I were watching, and we were like, Randall Park, he's been in so many other things. We looked it up. You know, he's been in Fresh Off the Boat, Always Be My Maybe with Ali Wong, who I love. And we saw that he had been in this series called Ikea Heights. And so we looked into Ikea Heights, and it is billed as a comedic melodrama web series. Okay. And that's exactly what it is. And this is from 2009. So well before Randall Park's like rise to fame in Hollywood and all that stuff. And it is a soap opera essentially that takes place in IKEA, and it's filmed on a super shitty camera. Each of the episodes, there's like 7 episodes. Each of the episodes are like 5 minutes. So this is like a half-hour commitment total. And it is hysterical. It's a bunch of actors who I think they were like in an improv group or something, like because there's so much energy in it. But essentially it starts with Randall Park and this other actress, I forget her name, waking up in a bed like in the showroom of IKEA. And it's just they treat the rooms as if they're normal rooms. So it's so hysterical, you know, like for them to turn the sink on and the sink's not running, and like bumping into signs and stuff. This is so funny. It like one of the things that's funny about it, one of the things that's most funny about it is that they did not get permission to film in IKEA, but IKEA is big enough so that they totally got away with it. And but it's really fun because they get caught not once, not twice, but 3 times during the filming of the season. And at the very I think it's the very end, one of the IKEA employees is just like fuck it and just joins them. And so it is hysterical. Once again, like web series, I think web series sometimes are just a fantastic place with comedy show stuff, because by the time something makes it on TV, it's been like edited and you know, just I don't know, there's so much editing that goes into it, not only the script and like what's appropriate or whatever, but then also the editing of the shots. So like if you had a plan to have one shot in a movie, but then the actors, there's something that happened with that shot and you can't use the shot, then like maybe a line gets edited out or something like that. And so I love just the raw creativity that's presented in web series sometimes, and this is one of those things. And the only thing that's bad about it, I would say, is the camera quality, you know, because the camera's like I don't even know what type of camera they were using, and this was 2009. But the acting in it is so good. Like all these actors are going for it, fully going for it. And another funny thing is people are totally walking around and shopping. And so it's so funny. And the characters will, like, there will be a canvas, you know, that you hang in your home at IKEA, of a full moon, and then there was a character who'd be like, it's a full moon, and they focus on the full moon canvas painting. It's so good, it's so witty, it's so funny. Once again, all these actors are completely going for it, and yeah, and it's just so, it's like there's an even more high anticipation for when they get caught. And you can see in the credits that they filmed a few. And then when they got in Burbank, which is like a kind of a suburb of LA, and where there's a bunch of studios, and then when they get caught, then it's suddenly in the credits, it's like another IKEA added in there. in the comments, it'll be like, did anyone notice that they switched Ikeas? It's just hysterical. Like, if you need just like a nerdy improv-y corner of the internet to go, I can highly, highly recommend Ikea Heights. It's on YouTube. I'm going to post the link in the show notes. That's pretty much all I want to say about it. You have to go experience it for yourself. All right, and on to film. Movies. Film. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here either, because once again, the doc that I'm going to talk about is kind of about a bunch of white guys, but they're about a bunch of white guys who affect every single social media user in the world. So it kind of relates to all of us. I want to talk about The Social Dilemma. The Social Dilemma is a Netflix documentary that came out in 2020. And I remember when I first watched it, I was like shook and like smug at the same time, because I was like, see, yes, this is why I'm so depressed. Like this. Yeah. And I want to like frame social media, or let's say being off of social media as queer. Let's say being on social media is the mainstream, and being off is kind of queer in a way. And so this doc, oh my gosh, I mean, I think it's really smart and effective. Like, people who are against this, and of course, here in the States, we have people can be against the earth being round. And you're like, what? I thought we agreed upon this. I just heard today about the election that there are election deniers, which I guess means you just deny the whole electoral process in the States. So like, people will go with whatever, but I like this doc because it presents information to me that lines up with the way that I've been feeling. And I think because of the nature of social media and the internet and how it's so deeply ingrained into most of our lives, it's becomes really hard to become aware of it and like pull yourself out of it. So this isn't like, the film is a call to action. This isn't a call to action for me, but for me, it helps me. Like, I love to watch this doc every once in a while because it helps me try to focus on my life outside of the phone, which is just crazy to say. Like, I'm not even quote unquote a phone person, but still sometimes I find myself like, I don't know, just, it's less the time wasted on the phone or whatever, and more like what the constant scroll and stuff does to my brain. So this doc, it interviews, I don't know exactly how many, let's say like 20 people. Probably a quarter to a third of them are like femmes. And but there's the kind of this like main group of white cisgender dudes who worked in Silicon Valley, whether it was for Google, whether it was for Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. So it's ex-employees from these companies who are kind of coming out and making an ethical statement about social media, which doesn't seem to have many ethics. And so it's really cool. They interview these guys, and the interview spots are pretty shadowy and dark and intense and empty. And but another thing that they do that I think is really effective in this docuseries documentary is they have this mock what is it called? Like when there's a family kind of like acting out or playing out things that they're the facts and figures that they're talking about in the documentary. So you see through like a typical American family or whatever, how the facts and figures that they're dropping like play out in the real world. And they also have this kind of like Black Mirror-y type thing with the guy from Mad Men who plays Pete on Mad Men. There's 3 versions of him, and they represent like how the social media computer works, and that has more to do with like the data and the advertisements and like how they target you using your data to get you to click on, whatever for however many cents per click. So it's fascinating. It's so good. I love this doc. Some of the things that they talk about that are horrifying but also extremely enlightening and like really kind of bring it home for me. Let's see. So, okay, never before in history this is one of the quotes, have 50 designers, 20 to 35-year-old, 20 to 35, so young, 20 to 35-year-old white guys in California made decisions that would have an impact on 2 billion people. 2 billion people will have thoughts that they didn't intend to have because the designer at Google said, this is how notifications work on that screen that you wake up to in the morning. So that put it all into perspective for me. When I first watched it, I was like, yes, this is what's happening. And this is why we don't have a certain code of ethics around it, because it's so homogenous, this group of young men who are developing things. And so there's this guy who had worked at Pinterest. He talks about how they and it's so funny, this coded language too. Like he talks about, he worked at Pinterest and he was studying the models of financial growth at Google. So essentially this advertising system and how it works. And he was like, yeah, it's so elegant, it's so elegant the way that Google did it. And so we wanted to do it the way Google did it. And he talks about how, Google with like ads and everything, like ads being a part of their model, their growth model or whatever. And so he talks about doing the same thing, and how then once that system was set up, then you could just dial up. That's the term he used, like dial it up, the numbers. So for instance, if you wanted like more people to be using Facebook or something being advertised on Facebook or whatever, you would just simply like dial up the algorithm. So it's kind of like capitalism at its fastest and greediest and almost most silent as well, because people don't know what's happening. The 20 to 35-year-olds know what's happening, but the rest of us don't, and we're just dealing with the effects of this stuff. That was crazy. Let's see, what were some of there's this really awesome guy in the documentary who's working to change things, and he's got super long dreads, and he's I don't know, I really like his vibe. And so he talks about like what it like how he talks about what the product is, because they say if you're not paying for something, then you are the product, or like your data, is the product. And so he talks about it's the gradual, slight, imperceptible change to your own behavior and perception that is the product. Okay, he also says, and that is the product. It's the only possible product. There's nothing else on the table that could possibly call the product. That's the only thing there is for them to make money from. Changing what you do, how you think, and who you are. And that's a bit dramatically phrased, but I liked that. I liked that because if I think about my own life, the only thing that, not the only thing, but one thing that, let's say, the smartphone changes is I spend more time on it. So if I'm spending time on this device, and this device is a window into other worlds, of things happening, then I'm not present in my physical reality. And that's the slight imperceptible change in behavior. It's different than like being someone who loves to play video games, and you've always played video games since like the earliest version of like Sega or like PlayStation, and you keep continuing playing like video games, let's say for 2 hours on the weekend, no matter what sort of like virtual reality, like whatever it has come to today, you love to play video games. That wouldn't be a change in your behavior because you would still be strapping in to play video games. But the phone use, that's the slight imperceptible change in our behavior, because it's impossible for us to be conscious when we're doing things on our phone. So that was really helpful for me to understand too. I want to bounce to the like family thing. So there's this family. It's kind of a fun. It's I guess they're going for like interracial blended family. It's kind of weird because like the father is black, the mother is white. There's 2 white kids who are definitely brother and sister biologically, and then there's another daughter who could be, I guess, the daughter of both of the parents, but she doesn't. I don't know. It's a little weird, but the youngest one is completely addicted in like a middle school type way. So she's on Snapchat. They call them snips, and she wants to send these snaps or snips, whatever, at the dinner table, and the mother uses this like cookie jar that you lock with a timer to put all the phones in from the family. And the daughter is so addicted to her phone that she uses a hammer and breaks open this like contraption to get her phone. And then her storyline has her like taking photos with filters, and like filters that make you more quote unquote pretty, and do that on Snapchat or whatever. And then like the comments that people will say, even after you do that, like the negative things that people will say, and how much that affects young kids. And they talk about like the suicide rate of girls specifically. They talk about how for teenagers, the suicide rates have gone way up. And even for middle school kids, the suicide rates have gone way up. And it's like, it's like you see the chart, like from social media being on the phone. That's when it goes way up. So it's scary. It's crazy. And yeah, there's a lot more to talk about. I'll keep this more brief, but I have noticed that what I get from social media is a sense of like knowing what everyone else, what other people are up to, being a quick way to communicate with people who aren't in my like immediate circle. It's a great way to showcase like what's going on with me artistically. But I think the negative side, which was really hard for me to like fully come to terms with, is that it's that simple simple acronym FOMO, fear of missing out. You have aspirations, and when you see other people, like me as an artist, for instance, I follow a bunch of other artists, and creators. And so when you see so much success from other creators and you don't feel like yourself, you don't feel successful in yourself, that it creates like envy and jealousy and stuff. And it's not like I'm jealous of everyone on Instagram. I love to support some fellow artists and people in my community, and like, yeah, I think like with for instance, like fundraising and stuff, it's really great. But I've noticed that my mental health is way, way better when I'm not engaged in these things. And it's not just that, but it's also like when I share something or have certain expectations around, a response, and it never comes. It really fucks with me. If it makes me feel like the kid no one wants to play with in the schoolyard. And I don't carry that with me. I don't think that much. Like I know social media is social media. I know that there are parts to it that are real and the real things can come of it, but also it's a perceived reality. It's just a lot. And the way that these things are designed is to addict us, to make money off of us. The Pinterest guy, he says, we want you to spend as much time on our app as possible. This is what all these social media apps are competing for, is time and attention. So he asks the question, like, how much of your life are you willing to spend with us? And it's like, oh my God, that's scary. That's scary. Like you think about your life when you're older and you're like, I spent hours and hours and hours on a phone. It's so scary. I don't know. Something else, none of these, the ones with children, none of them let their kids have a phone or have screen time. Like hands down. And the one Pinterest guy, he says that he would come home and be like he was he wasn't designing, but he worked for Pinterest, and then he would come home and he would be on like typing an email or on Pinterest, but like hiding out in the pantry, not playing with the kids, like literally hiding from them and being on his phone. And it's crazy. There was one person who says that he had to write, he was addicted to Twitter, and he had to write software for him to get off of Twitter. Like, that's the level that we're talking about, where like people, like these designers and stuff, they're fully aware of what they're doing, and they can see the negative effects, but no one stood up. There's this one guy, Tristan, he's like, he creates the Center for something technology, like sustainable or ethical technology. And he wrote this email in Google because Gmail was so addictive for him. He wrote this email and he was like, yeah, I think we need some ethics around this. And then everyone in the company read it and there was this big like buzz, and then nothing happened. And so he had to quit and like start his own thing. And there's just a bunch of them who, they went to this like Stanford persuasive technology school, and a bunch of them have then worked for the apps that we use in our daily lives. So persuasive technology, like technology to persuade you to use it. It's crazy. It's so intense. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. 2 things that they recommend at the end of the film. If you're like, well, I don't think I want to like go through and watch all this, but what's the takeaway? They said the most common thing for what you can do is to turn off your notifications. And so I have done that. I tried to put my notifications on for Instagram because I wanted to be able to respond when people like commented or like, sent me something direct. I wanted to be able to respond. But there was some feature in there where like they wouldn't show everything. They wouldn't show all the activity. And there's other features where I feel really not great about how they're functioning in Instagram. So my thing, like I'm thinking about getting off, but oof, as an artist, it's like, oh, like you kind of have to have it. But I'm wondering if something for the future, if it feels too overwhelming, is like to be able to post things on my Instagram that are like, if you want to watch videos or clips, you can go to my YouTube. If you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can go here. If you want to be able to purchase all of my music and see the lyrics, you can go to Bandcamp. And then like kind of be off of Instagram in a way of like, I'm not really on here, but you can connect with me otherwise. But it's so difficult, like it's the easiest way is to just go with the flow. Especially as an underground artist, So I'm super interested if y'all have opinions on this stuff. Like, let me know what you think, because I feel like a troglodyte and I'm just like, leave me off of everything. I want to be off the grid. But yeah, it is super great for the mental health. I can highly recommend. All right, let's move on to the outro. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
Okay, I think I mentioned that there were two things in the last segment that you can do, and I only mentioned one of them. One is turn off your notifications from your phone, and another one is to use a search engine that doesn't track your history. The one they recommend is Quant, spelled Qwant. I use DuckDuckGo, but using browsers outside of Google is also helpful. And they say don't click on videos that just come up for you on YouTube. Like in the algorithm, you should try to like search your own stuff. So just had to clear that up. But outro, check in. I feel better than I have in a really long time. I'm slowly like working on the pain going on in my body. Been doing some really great work with an herbalist who has given me like some really simple things that have been so significant in helping me get through the day. It's like, wow, it's, I don't know, Western medicine that's like a whole nother tirade that I can go on. But I'm feeling super grateful and just feeling a little bit more optimistic and hopeful, which is really good. And yeah, it's not that my depression is gone or anything like that. It's just I'm like really able to like function better now. So it feels good. Wishing everyone a good November, good month of like cozying up, and yeah, see you next time.
I've been in low power mode, in low power mode, been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.